Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Natha Heintz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What's up, Steeler fans? I'm your host, Daniel J. Welcome back to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. With me, as always, Natha Heintz from In Hindsight. Nathan, how you doing this Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, afternoon, man. Earlier show than usual, but pretty good. Gonna go officiate some basketball games later on today, man. And other than that, not feeling too bad. Ready to do some talking on here.
Awesome. Let's say hello to a couple of the early ongoers in the live chat. We have Daredevil in the building. We have a Steelers fan, Brian Brown. The homies Drunk Turkey Show is probably Jaime, maybe Blue. George. Yeah, we all use the YouTube link. So sometimes when we're in the comment section, we there's been one time where me and Jaime commented to the same guy. It just looked like it was just the same person talking to themselves. It was kind of funny. Yeah. So thank you guys. Yeah, good to see you guys. It's been a while. We took a couple of times off there just to allow things to happen.
It was a slow part of the offseason, but we're kicking up now.
Exactly, 100%. And today we're going to be talking about moves the Pittsburgh Steelers need to make this upcoming offseason. We're going to be looking at 5 different ones. We're going to break them down into 5 different categories, talk about them, and then go forward through there. So the first category the first move that needs to make is the cuts. With the new season approaching or the tampering period approaching and contracts becoming guaranteed. There are some that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to cut. In my opinion, there's one on each side, offense and defense. You have on the defensive side, you have William Jackson, who accounts for about $12 million towards the cap. And on the offensive side, you have Mitch Trubisky, who accounts for, if he were to be cut, the Steelers would save about $8 million. Nathan, either one of those two guys or maybe another guy, who is your move of the offseason as far as cuts go?
Well, William Jackson is definitely an obvious one. There's absolutely no way that any team would be paying him $12 million. Absolutely no way. So he's going to get cut. It's interesting with Mitch because they have come out and said that they would like to keep him longer term. And I just don't know if that's something that they would want to do with his cap hit. I don't know if they're going to maybe try to restructure him in any type of way, or extend him. I don't even know if he wants to be here. Really, who knows? Couple other guys that they could and probably will cut. Akello Witherspoon's going to be a guy. It's not going to save up a ton of money, but it's definitely going to move. Miles Jack's probably the most interesting one, though, in my opinion. What are they going to do with him? Because he's going to get paid how much is he going to get? $11 million this year, right?
14.
God.
Yeah.
He definitely ain't worth that. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if the Steelers cut him, they'll get $11 million back.
Okay. So I think out of all the names, that's the most key one, because if you cut him and don't bring him back, now you have 2 holes at inside linebacker. Right. And that's hard to cover in one offseason. So it's hard to see them give him the full thing that he's owed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they'll do some type of contract thing where maybe they extend him for a period or for however long and try to space that money out. I don't think they're going to get rid of him.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the smartest decision for the Steelers. Unless, because the only other re-signing that they would have to do in that point would be Robert Spillane, who played 100% of the snaps the last quarter of the season last year. and played well. I mean, he's not a flashy guy. He's not a guy. He's a guy that can fill a role. He's going to have some weaknesses, bend but don't break type of dude. Um, I think you're going to have to bring him back just based on the fact that he did play 100% of his snaps. Miles Jack, yeah, he accounts for quite a bit. Mark Robinson is another guy that's going to be back. Marcus Allen is a guy I'm hoping isn't back, to be honest with you.
No reason to keep him.
Yeah, for sure. I would like a restructure. I think a restructure would do good for both the Pittsburgh Steelers and for Miles Jack. He still make his money, and it won't affect the books as much for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just, you're going to end up paying him in the long term. Like, for instance, this season, I believe, is the last season we're paying Stephon Tuitt still. And so, you restructure those type of deals, you add avoided years, and then you're still paying that money. It's just later on down the road, it's when it's going to take over in your books. For me, my main one would be definitely, as far as cuts go, William Jackson. I think he's definitely, like, for instance, Trubisky, you can live with that because that guy, what he has, what he's been able to do. He can probably get you out of stadiums in a pinch. And he's not going to be your starter. He's not going to push Kenny Pickett in that manner. And he's been with the offense for at least one season, so he can come in and fulfill what he needs to be done if needed to be for a short period of time. Do you think that Mitch? Because a lot of folks are talking and stating that maybe perhaps an answer to that Mitch Trubisky problem could be to extend him. Do you think there's a possibility of that happening with Trubisky, or do you think that he's going to try to get out of here as fast as he possibly can? He has to play one more year. But he's going to try to get out of here, starting job.
Yeah. I don't see him accepting extension. I don't. Mm-hmm. I don't see why. If you're Mitch, okay, and you came into last year as a starting quarterback, you all know everything that transpired. 100%, he sees himself as somebody that can still start in the league, and there's no reason as to why he would accept an extension to stay here. No reason. So it's either one, he's going to be here on the 1-year contract, or number two, he's just going to ask to be released. And I know that Khan said that he expressed he'd like Mitch to be here longer term and stuff like that. I don't see it happening. I don't. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to give him the $8 million. I think he's still going to be released. I don't care what Omar Khan says. I really don't. It's one thing to express the desire. It's one thing for it to become reality. Right. And I think with Mitch, I think he's taken the high road in the sense of, like, he's still doing stuff with the team and things like that. That's a great thing. But you can't sit here and say that Mitch doesn't view himself as just a backup in the league. 100% he views himself as someone to possibly get another opportunity. I mean, Omar definitely could have been too. Like, he could have just been trying to say the right things also in the sense. But so I still think he's going to get cut. I do. I think they're going to use that money elsewhere. I think they'll do whatever else at backup quarterback. But if Mitch stays here, it's just going to be for one more year. Because, I mean, seriously, if you're someone like Mitch, who is a former top 5 pick, you've started everything like that, and you started last year, he obviously wasn't happy with how everything went. Why, from a competitive standpoint, why are you going to view yourself as someone, I'm just a backup, man, and I'm just going to accept an extension here?
Right. Right. No, you're absolutely right. That would be throwing in the towel.
It would. He would be throwing in the towel.
But it could also be a situation where he can, there's more quarterbacks coming into the league that are doing some explosive stuff, and maybe perhaps could Mitch Trubisky turn into Charlie Batch is what I'm asking. Charlie Batch, when he came in, he was a guy that was thinking that he was going to get an opportunity to start. He started it for Detroit. He took them to the playoffs. There was some hype around Charlie Batch. And so he thought when he came in that he was going to be pushing for, he was going to be pushing Maddox. This was his hometown team, the whole 9 yards. And he's come out and talked about how after, his contract was up, he had a decision to make, and he decided to stay with the city of Pittsburgh. But that's but he was also a hometown guy. So, Mitch Trubisky's not from here. He doesn't have those ties. So that
just hard to say what his
answer.
mindset is. I'm not going to make any. I'm not going to speak for him, make any speculation on what he thinks or things like that. I just view it from a competitive nature for really any quarterback that has been a starter in the league, that they're going to want another opportunity.
Yeah.
I kind of view it like Baker Mayfield a little bit. Like he came in and with Carolina this year, and then he finished out with the Rams. He's probably going to look to get an opportunity elsewhere because there's probably like 11 teams that could probably get a new quarterback. So I think that's another thing as well. But if Mitch leaves, honestly, who cares? Who cares? I think that you can bring someone in that's just as serviceable for cheaper. Even someone that might even be a better guy just for the locker room and for maybe Kenny. I mean, Mitch isn't a special quarterback. He's a high-end backup quarterback. That's what he is.
I would agree. And I think he would be serviceable in the right system. Clearly, he wasn't grasping this system, whether that's something on the quarterback or the coordinator.
Mitch is watching Geno.
That's a crazy story. And the Seahawks extended him. Do you think the Seahawks still draft a quarterback real quick? I think they do.
It's possible. I think it's possible. I think that they're definitely going to. I think it's possible. Yeah, I like that poll thing you added there, Dan. I just saw that. I'll have to add that in mine. I think it's possible that they do. I don't see them doing it in the first round just because they saw what they did last year. They're probably going to want to just add on top of that. They gave Geno a good 3-year contract. So maybe they do like in the middle, like if there's someone that they like a lot in the middle rounds, I could see that. But I think if it doesn't really go their way this year with Geno, then maybe next year.
I think they hold the number 5 overall pick.
Yeah, they do. They do. And there's gonna be teams calling for that.
There are, but there's a kid in what's his name? Richardson, Anthony,
the
Florida Gator
quarterback. Yeah, no, it's possible. It's possible. I'm not ruling that out. I think that's possible.
Yeah, I think that's my prediction. My prediction for this draft is that they're going to draft that young man at number 5
guy.
Yeah, and have him sit behind Geno for two years. Try to do the Trey Lance route.
Well, see, it seems like with Anthony Richardson, what everybody's talking about is that, again, it seems like this is a common theme for NFL teams nowadays where they really bank on potential, they bank on attributes and stuff like that rather than already seeing, not necessarily saying having everything right away on the quarterback, but more of the raw talent that's there more so than the talent that's already there.
Right.
And them saying with Anthony Richardson, they kind of they didn't compare him to Josh Allen. They said in the situation where when Josh Allen came in with a lot of things a lot of NFL teams liked, though he wasn't quite there, and it took him 2 to 3 years to finally get there. But it might be a situation like that for him too. Could be.
Right. See,
so no, they could. I think the draft's going to be a lot more interesting than it was last year in the sense of like now you actually have quarterbacks that are going to go in the top 10. And there's a handful of teams that are going to want a new quarterback. Colts, Texans, like you said, possibly Seattle could, Carolina. So there's going to be teams. I mean, even the Ravens, if they trade Lamar Jackson, maybe they will. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's possible. So
no, yeah, you're absolutely right, and that brings me to
I think it'll make it fun.
The next point, and the 5 must make moves is draft. What are the draft moves that they need to make this season? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. They have a lot of holes in a lot of places. They have a free agency is going to come first, and that's going to kind of give us a clear answer for the draft. So before we go to the draft, let's talk about free agency. What positions do you think that the Steelers are going to highlight in free agency this year? Maybe not players, but positions.
Just positions, stuff like that. Let's see real quick. I'll answer that. Just looking at a couple comments. Brian Brown, this will also kind of relate what we'll talk about here to questions or chance Steelers don't change the offensive line at all. We'll talk about that. Steel Girls, Renegade, everybody like that. What's up? Appreciate you tuning in the chat. I think for free agency, We've known the Steelers. We know the way they've done things. But I think Omar Khan's going to do things his way. I think we're going to see some difference. I think we're going to see some change. I think Omar Khan's going to be aggressive. He's already talked about free agency. And I think that they're not just going to sit there and let the cookies crumble and then pick up the scraps like they always do. I think they're going to go out. I think they're going to see what they're really prioritizing, and they're just going to attack that. I'm not saying they're going to go break the bank on 2-3 guys or anything like that, but I think they're at least going to bring in one. I think they're going to do a pretty hefty signing with at least one guy. And not saying the other signings are just going to be scrubs or guys to fill out. Like they can still definitely give some good contracts to guys that especially that fit that. But I think we're going to see a different approach. So I think inside linebacker 100% is going to be a position they look at. There's not an inside linebacker that's going to go in the first round. There's probably a couple that you could look in the second round, third round. But I think if you're the Steelers, I don't see them using their first 3 picks on an inside linebacker that isn't really breaking the draft boards, that isn't getting teams excited or anything like that. I think they're really going to utilize that luxury that they got with Claypool and stuff like that elsewhere. So I think inside linebacker 100%. I could see them signing a corner, maybe someone that they can put in the rotation, not a cornerback that they're going to go out and drop big cash on, not a cornerback one in free agency. But I could see them bringing in somebody to put in that rotation there. Maybe they might look at maybe a piece on the line, whether that's a depth piece, whether that's a situational piece. Because really with the O-line, so going to Brian's question, do I think the Steelers change the line at all? I think at least one spot on that they do. The Steelers line definitely meshed and really gelled together really pretty well the second half of the year. And you don't need to completely overhaul. The question for me on the line is, what are you going to do with Chuks Okorafor? Because I believe to make $11 million. They set his contract where they pushed the money back his last 2 years. They can cut him and save money if they want to do that. He's even expressed he knows that it's possible, that he knows it's a business. It's possible. Okorafor to me isn't worth paying $11 million. Not worth paying $11 million. Is he a bad right tackle? No. Is he a tackle that's replaceable? Yeah, he is. So that's an interesting position. James Daniels had a good year. Mason Cole was fine for what he did at center. Left guard, the left side of the line is the more concern for me. But in terms of the money that you're putting, is it worth putting $11 million or whatever it is into Okorafor? I don't think.
Right. And do you know that's a June 1 or March cut that they have to
I'm not
save that
sure
money on
if
cheap?
that's the way they did his contract or not.
Because
I just know they back-ended his money the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. The 3-year, $29.25 million contract.
And there were people, I remember when they signed it, I know there were people that weren't happy about that contract either.
No, yeah. Yeah. He had other I guess people bidding for him.
Yeah. He's not bad. He's an average tackle. That's what he is. And I don't really think for an average tackle that you might want to put that money there. I'm just saying that. I don't care if he comes back or not. I think it's fine if he comes back, but I think the offensive line will be different. I think they're going to use one of their 3 picks on a tackle in the draft, 100%. And I think they'll do that at 17 or 32.
All right. So there's some good news. He's worth, like you said earlier, the cap number is actually $13 million this year. 13. And
or maybe they restructure him. I don't know.
If they cut him pre-June 1, let me share this real quick so everybody can see what I'm looking at. This is from overthecap.com. And so pre-June 1, there'd be a dead money for about 6.1 mil, 6.9. And if they do it post, it's only a $3 million hit. And so they can see if they get a left tackle in the draft.
Yeah.
And before they make the decision if they're going to cut him or not. So the Steelers put themselves in a really, really good position with Chuks Okorafor's contract there. That was really good. Good job. This wasn't Omar Khan, was it, that signed him? I think this was before him, right?
No, I think it was Omar Khan.
Was it?
Yeah, pretty sure. So Brian,
another
answer your
great
question.
time.
Yeah, I think the Steelers will have a little bit of a different O-line. I don't think it's going to be drastic. I think at least one spot, maybe two at the most, will be different. I think everything else in free agency, inside linebacker, 100%. I could see maybe defensive line, possibly they go that direction. Maybe I think that cornerback to add into the rotation could be an option there. I've said to sign a veteran wide receiver to add into the group, a guy that doesn't need the ball, a guy that's physical, a guy that brings some leadership, to add into their wide receiver group instead of drafting one. Don't understand why you need to draft one in the first round. I will never understand that mindset at all. Don't care what people say about Jordan Addison. I would much rather see that. Now, if it was a situation where they traded Deontay Johnson, then that's different. But I think at the end of the day, I think you can find a wide receiver that can fit what I'm talking about on a decent contract. So
Right.
I think in terms of free agency, I think defense is probably going to be the primarily angle on that. Maybe, like I said, they bring in a veteran wide receiver to add something to that group because it's very young. It's a little immature, right? So I could see them doing something like that maybe. But I don't think offense is honestly really going to be utilized. I think when it comes to offense this offseason, I see in the draft more so on the line.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the line would probably be the best suited for the draft, just because of also the cost and associated with signing especially a tackle. But yeah, when it comes to Chicks Core, the Steelers have definitely put themselves in a position that if they need to, let's say somebody falls to them because of how heavy and or how top heavy we're expecting this draft to be in quarterbacks, and possibly even like you mentioned, receivers. They've been going early. You have your offense, your edge rusher. So there's a bunch of players that could possibly go before, and a tackle could fall the Pittsburgh Steelers that they like. And
there's about 5 tackles that can go in the first round.
For sure. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers pick one up there at 17.
I think they'll do 17 or 32. If there's a couple that they think they can get there at 32, I think that they'll do that also.
I agree. So, but you mentioned Jordan Addison. Were you surprised with his numbers when he ran the 40?
A little bit. Like, I know that playing at Pitt, playing at USC is different. Real quick, Steeler Girl, any role on Cam Sutton? Yeah, they've been talking. They've been talking. They've been in communication. I think that they'll get a deal done. Brian, do you think day one, afraid to will pretty much show the Steelers' hand? I don't necessarily say it will show their hand, but I think they're definitely going to have a different approach. I think that they're going to be aggressive, especially knowing that they don't have to pay anybody really right now in offense. And I think they're going to take advantage of that. I think they'll start re-signing their own right away, to be honest. But Jordan Addison, playing at Pitt, playing at USC, I understand is different. But yeah, his numbers did not really do him any favors. Really, a lot of teams put a lot of stock into that.
Right.
And I think that he's a guy that can still go in the first round. But the thing is, these people, the Steeler fans out there that want him at 17 are probably either one, just Pitt fans and would love to see Pickett and Addison back together, which, okay, the story is fun, but is it something that needs to happen? No, it's not. And then anyone that plays the argument, oh, well, you look at what the NFL is doing, man, and Burrow and Chase, and Jordan Addison isn't even on that level. Jordan Addison isn't going in the top 5. He's not going in the top 10. He might just fall to the end of the first round. So why are you going to invest in somebody like that with pick 17 when you have crucial other positions you can really tackle? And yeah, put down the pit glasses, man. Like, I'm not saying Jordan Addison's not good. I'm not saying he can't have a good career. But when you look at really where the Steelers are at right now, drafting a wide receiver with your 17th pick when you're going to have some tackles there, you're going to have corner there, two really key positions that the Steelers could really hop on and take advantage of. It doesn't make sense to me. But Jordan Addison, I think with his numbers, I think that he'll probably fall in the first round, man. I think there'll be a team that will need a receiver. They look at him, okay, he can be a guy that can maybe turn into a solid guy, but he's not. I don't think he's going to go in the top 20, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think
there
so.
might not be a receiver that goes to the top 20.
Yeah.
You have Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have him. You have Zay Flowers. Those are probably your three, and it's possible neither of the three go.
Yeah.
At least looking at some of these guys that cover the draft and stuff like that, they might not go in the top 20.
That's true. That's true. For me, I would hope that the Pittsburgh Steelers, as far as the draft goes, which is the next topic that we're talking about, is attack probably the trenches.
No, I agree. And Daniel, not to cut you off here, man. I'm sorry, but it's time. It's time, man. The Steelers have been neglecting it. They have been the last 3-4 years. They have been neglecting their offensive line in the first 2 rounds the last 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to change that. You got to change that. Offensive line is, aside from quarterback, in my opinion, the most important piece in the NFL. And you need to finally tackle that in. I'm not saying the Steelers can't. I'm not saying that they have to change their entire. They don't. I like a handful of guys there. They did a really good job, especially as the year went on, and that's what you want to keep together. That doesn't mean that you don't draft somebody that can be an upgrade over what you have, and heck, could maybe be a guy for 10, 15 years for you.
Right.
So
I agree. I agree. I think they're going to go in the trenches. I think it's going to depend on who falls. To be honest with you, if they go on either,
and I'd be happy with any of them. All of them can be really good tackles. You have Paris Johnson out of Iowa State, Skoronski out of Northwestern. You have DeJuan Jones, who I believe is out of Ohio State. I believe he's really been coming up. You have Broderick Jones out of Georgia. I think DeJuan Jones out of Georgia too. I'm pretty sure he's out of Georgia. So there's 4. Darnell Wright is or Donnell Wright, whatever his name is. He's been a guy as well that's been working up the ranks. So there's 5. I don't know if I'm missing another one or not, but that's at least 5. Oh, and then Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. So there's 6. That's 6 right there that could go in the first round or right there in the beginning of the second round.
Yeah,
that would be end of the first round if the Steelers had the second round or they do have their second pick, but it's not a first round pick technically. So,
do you think the Steelers will make a move for Jalen Carter if he ends up falling? I don't think he's going to fall that far. But
I don't think he's going to fall that far either. But if he would be there, I would imagine. I don't see why they would pass up on him. But I think that I think it really depends, how teams view him, man. How serious is the situation? I don't think he's been really a headache of a guy or anything like that either. So,
yeah, I believe he only got charged with 2 misdemeanor counts. Two misdemeanor counts. So I think one was racing, one was so they're both misdemeanor. I'm not sure how they would word things in that state, but here in the state of Texas, those would be.
Yeah, I don't see him dropping all the way 17. I don't.
Yeah, he's not going to get any jail time.
It's honestly kind of the same thing with Laramie Tunsil when he was in the draft, when that photo of him came out viral, especially when the NFL was really big on marijuana and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he dropped, but he didn't drop all the way to 15 or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right. I don't think he's going to drop that far, but I know that some folks were mocking him to be there or be available there. In fact, I did my first mock draft the other day. I didn't put it out.
Did you?
I just thought, I was like, let me just see where we're at. And then he was there on my first one. And then I was like, really? And then after that, I did another one and he was gone within the top 8. And so, which is probably more reasonable. And so for me, as far as the draft goes, I think the most important need, like you said, was going to be in the trenches. I think they're also going to be looking at defensive. I think that defense is going to be a heavy priority in the top 4 picks of this draft. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one offensive lineman and then the rest of them defense, whether it's defensive lineman, an edge guy, maybe, and definitely a defensive back. Those are the 3 positions that I'm assuming that are going to be coming in. And the reason being is that the Steelers have also neglected the defense probably just as much, if not as more, than the offensive line in the last couple of years. And, it's been heavy offense. And the defense have had a bunch of Band-Aids to put in there in free agency. You know what I'm saying? And so it's worked, but, when the stars of the team, or the star of the team as far as the top 7 there in TJ Watt or in the box there, he goes out, the Steelers just they can't do anything. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be a one-man team on the defensive side.
No.
And so,
No.
I know
it can't be.
Right. And I know they have Minka in the back end, and Minka does Minka stuff. But when you have Minka being the top tackler because he's having to come into the box to help assist with the run defense, it takes away from what Minka does best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
that's what happened last year. That's why you had people saying, "Oh, Minka wasn't really that good." I mean, dude, he was playing out of position 75% of the time.
Exactly.
What do you want him to do?
Yeah, exactly. And so, hold on. We got, I guess, some breaking news.
Yeah, Steeler Girl says Ravens place Lamar on non-exclusive tag. See you later.
Yep. That means they're basically trading him for 2 first-round picks.
He's gone, man. He's gone. And to be honest, we're not going to make this about the Ravens, but to be honest, I think this is honestly the best decision for them because to me, if I was a Ravens fan, obviously I'd be discouraged just because obviously you would be a big fan of Lamar, blah, blah, blah. But when we speak of reality here, if you're going to give Lamar $260 million fully guaranteed that he wants, you're going to be exactly in the Browns spot where they might be looking to trade Nick Chubb and everything like that, and it's going to be a complete disaster. Deshaun Watson screwed up the market for some of these higher-end quarterbacks. You look at guys like Carr and Smith and possibly Daniel Jones that might be hitting that restart again on it, which is good. But for the Ravens, you can probably, if they're able to figure out their quarterback situation rather quickly after Lamar, then you could be in a situation maybe where the Steelers are at, where you're not going to be paying somebody. You can really strengthen the team, something that they've needed to do. They don't have anybody on offense in terms of any threat on the outside or anything like that. And with Lamar, my biggest question was always his longevity. I know he's 25, and I know you can still get some good years out of him. But, dude, when he starts hitting his early 30s, he ain't going to be using his legs the way he does.
No.
And he's really going to have to be using his arm and being a pocket passing type of quarterback. So, I don't really care to commit to that longer term. That's just me. So, again, yeah, I'd say Lamar's on the way out. I've been predicting that for quite a long time, but,
yeah, it looks to be confirmed. All Steelers. Let's see, SI.com.
Now they can match an offer. If he does get an offer offered to him, they could match it. Like if he goes to if he accepts their offer, it's like the NBA. If you're a restricted free agent and you get an offer and you accept it, the team, if you're a restricted free agent, the team has a certain amount of time to match that. So the Ravens still could do that, but this is why I said Atlanta, man. I predicted Atlanta even before the season ended because they went heavy after Deshaun Watson. They have a lot of money to work with, and they can give Lamar what he wants. And I think that's where he's going to go. I stood by that. So I don't know. But, Lamar, see you later. Won't miss you. Will not miss you. Yeah. You weren't a threat. You weren't a threat anyway, but won't miss you.
So they're probably going to go heavy into the draft for quarterback. The Ravens, that is, or perhaps maybe we see when Mason Rudolph returns to the North in purple and black.
Dude, that would be amazing.
Oh my God, that would be fun, dude. That'd be funny.
That would be amazing.
Just really hope he is who we think he is if he does go over there.
Yep.
He turns into some kind of superstar. That would.
Yeah, maybe your wife might be happy about that one, even though she's on the Ravens. But if he becomes a starter or something like that, I don't know.
Right.
So Daniel, what are your with the title of the show? If you had to give me 5 things here, just 5, doesn't have to be in order or anything like that. 5 things that you think are must needs for the Steelers this free agency in the sense of tackling free agency, draft, any type of roster move that needs to be made. What are your 5 biggest things that you think the Steelers need to do to you can sit there and say, all right, let's go take that leap, man. Let's go take that leap this year. Let's go win the AFC North.
So the first thing that they would need to do is to make they need to make space on the cap, right? So you do that by cutting players. The first players that we would cut would probably be We talked about William Jackson. We talked about possibly Miles Jack or restructuring him, giving him an extension. And you also talk about Mr. Trubisky. So those are some moves that the Steelers could make to then acquire some money. And then with that money, you go and you get pieces that aren't the strength of this draft, such as a middle linebacker, such as, maybe players that like, for instance, Terrell Edmonds. He's a safety. Safeties aren't that expensive right now. So you go after those players that aren't that expensive in positions that aren't too expensive. And then you attack the draft in those players that are, for instance, a left tackle, maybe a cornerback. That's a
great approach.
The trenches. And so that way you maximize your budget basically.
And I think that's the direction they're going to go, to be honest with you. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, I would assume so too. I mean, that's the one I would go. And then, when you get into the as far as coaching goes, I think you need to acquire some more coaches. This is one of the smallest staffs in the NFL when it comes to the amount of coaches that they have. I think it's somewhere around, like, the Steelers only have like 16. I think there was like I think they're in the bottom end. And so, I understand Coach Tomlin likes to keep things, short and, close to the vest, but perhaps maybe getting some more coaches out there that specialize in certain positions could improve certain positions amongst this team. For instance, amongst, the defensive line, the offensive line, pass protect, things like that. And across the board, it doesn't hurt.
Right. No,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think those are the moves that the Steelers need to make to become a contender. I think they've made some pretty solid ones up to this point, as far as, I thought it would have been, I know it's probably not the most popular decision, but I thought it would have been maybe not the best decision to fire your offensive coordinator after your rookie quarterback only had 10 games with him as being the starter, and who has come out and said that he didn't get a chance to talk to the offensive coordinator early on in the season. It wasn't until he became a starter that they began to figure each other out and figure what each other liked and what they disliked and what they were able to accomplish together. And so, we did see the offense turn around in the second half of the season. And we saw a team that went 7-2 in the second half that not many people were expecting. And so I think, blowing that up while the trajectory is going in the right direction would have been the wrong move, in my opinion. Yeah. I think there's a short leash there, and there's an expectation that needs to be grasped. And if it's not, I think then at that point, there's probably some coaches that are going to be on their way out, one being Matt Canada. And so, I think the Steelers are close. They're on the cusp. It's really going to come down to taking those next steps. We have Kenny Pickett coming into a second year. We need to see him take that next step, that second year jump. It cannot be a sophomore slump for him. Same thing for George Pickens. He's going to need to take another move. I anticipate Najee Harris being a lot healthier. And then when you have somebody like Jaylen Warren, who going into this upcoming season, we know is going to be the second guy. We know that Najee doesn't have to carry the rock he doesn't have to be that, carry all the weight on his shoulder as much as he was before. And so that will prolong his abilities. I mean, last season he was injured, but how many running backs, don't miss? Because I don't, as much as he was injured, I don't think he missed the game.
No, he didn't.
And he didn't miss a game his rookie year. And as much as we talk about the offensive line, not being so collective and not being and going through last season without major injury, it's a bigger feat for your running back who has runs the ball in the manner that he does to also stay healthy for 2 years. Yeah. And so and a lot of that I think has to go with the emergence of Jaylen Warren last season.
It is, and we all said that his first year. He needed, after that year, how much the Steelers ran him, they needed somebody to take the load off. And they found that with Warren, and he gives them a different change of pace, which is what your offense needs.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm excited to see him next year as well. The injury obviously held him up early in the year. And then really once that second half of the season started, it was Najee Harris that we knew him as, man. And it was great to watch. It was fun to watch. And every Steeler fan should be optimistic about him going forward. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else. Oh, yeah. About Matt Canada. What I would love to see them do is just to bring an offensive mind that has been involved in modern day NFL with whatever team that may be, that has played a role, and bring him in and pair him with him, help aid him in passing or whatever it is. And where Canada's not just doing on its own. I know Tomlin said earlier last year that he's involved in both aspects, but you need someone that can at least be a guide there. And if it doesn't work out with Canada, then okay, goodbye. But I think maybe one of the biggest things this offseason I would love to see.
Yeah.
So whatever, it's a pass game coordinator, whatever you want to call it, somebody that can give him some type of direction in certain elements of the offense, and that's what I want to see. That's really what I want to see. But
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I liked what Canada, the running game, and Canada's influence on the running game last season really started to shine at the end of the season. It took some time for it to get going. The running game wasn't the best early on. And there was a lot of reasons to it, but I think that if the passing game can somewhat catch up to the running game and complement it, and if they can do some freaking play action passes, I think that would go a long way for this team.
Yeah, no, it really would. You got to attack the field more this year. You can't be playing the way you've been playing the last couple years with Ben and stuff like that. You have to be able to get the ball down the field. You got guys that can go ahead and make those type of plays, and everything of that nature. But 1 week away until, I don't know what's the exact date when the tampering and the talks can start, but I know that it's 1 week away until guys can start signing next week. I think it's the 17th when they can start signing or something. And Daniel's on mute. Mute.
Sorry about that.
There you go. I was trying to see if you were able to read my lips.
Yeah, March 15th is the official start of free agency. March 13th is the start of the legal tampering period.
All right, so we're almost there. We are almost there. This is what we've been waiting for, guys. This is what we've been waiting for. It's been drier than a freaking desert this offseason, and this is what we've been waiting for. So, but so that's the thing, Aquatic, okay? So, like, I've been an advocate that they should have moved on from him, but the fact they're keeping him, you can bring somebody in to – there's a lot of teams that do that. There's a lot of teams that have passing-type coordinators with their offense.
Chargers.
You guys think so there you go. Do you guys think somehow they give Kenny more freedom? I don't know. I don't even really know how much freedom he had last year, but maybe there might be some more comfortability where they let him kind of maybe see what he sees out there and he can maybe make a change here and there. I'm not really quite sure.
I think they do. I think one of the aspects of why you would limit him last season is the inexperience and probably knowledge of the playbook. Another year under his belt would give him more experience, probably some more familiarity with the playbook and in those situations. So his playbook is going to open, especially on what he's going to be able to do when what he sees. So I do think that there's going to be a little bit more of that, and I think we saw a little bit of that towards the end of the year where there was times where it looked like Kenny was calling his own plays, not to sound Ben Roethlisberger-is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you think Kenny's a captain next year?
Oh, for sure. I don't think there's
he was the biggest leader on offense last year. That's for sure.
I agree. And I think this is going to be
Big Blue, what's up, man?
What's up, Big Blue? Big Blue. That's not for the Cowboys. I mean,
no, it is not.
That's Big Blue. Big Blue is part of the Drunk Turkey Show.
Yep.
That's his nickname he's had for a long time, and he's not a Cowboy fan. He's actually a Bears fan. How's Chase Claypool doing out there?
How's he doing, man? How's he doing?
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, appreciate you tuning in, man. Appreciate you tuning in. I know you're expecting maybe a big offseason from them.
Oh yeah, man. They got some decisions to make with their choices as well. but we're getting a little bit long in the tooth here for an off-season show. Yeah, I'm really excited about this offseason. I think this is going to be. I'm really excited about this team. This season here is going to be and it's going to point to what our team is. You know, if our team contends, then I think that that's who we are. And if we don't, then I think some changes may need to be made. And I think they will be made.
I want to see him just be aggressive, man.
I agree.
That's
because
I want to see him be aggressive.
I don't see how changes couldn't be made if the Steelers were to not win 10 games again this year. When was they had that in 2020? They won 11 games or 12 games, but they had that weird 11-0. When was the last time before that? Like 2017. So one time since then. 2018.
What, when they won over 10?
Yeah, when they won 10 or more games.
Yeah, 2018 they won 9. They won 8. 2019. 2020, 2021 they won 9. They won 9 last year. So yeah.
So it's been a long time. I think the Steelers need to. They've just been average.
Yeah, they do.
It's just been average, and I think we need to be more than average. And I think this is going to tell us.
Yeah, and I think they know that. I think having some freshness with Khan and Andy Weidel, I think is gonna do good for this offseason and for moving forward. Well, it is aquatic. It's gonna be different. It's gonna feel fresh. I think it's gonna be a free agency that feels different. That feels like a little bit of a change, because Omar Khan's gonna be doing his own thing, and he's already come out and expressed the importance of free agency. So I think we're gonna get that. They recognize, they know they're not paying anybody anymore on offense like how they were in years prior. You got to take advantage of it, man. You have to take advantage of it. The Browns are in cap hell for the next 5 years. They're already thinking about trading Nick Chubb. You got Lamar's situation. You have the Bengals who are going to start paying guys. This is the time to take advantage.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers have put themselves in a position to do something starting now. They have their quarterback. They have a first-round running back. They have a first-round grade receiver, in my opinion. And I think if you redo last year's draft, there's no way George Pickens gets out of the first round.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and so you have you have Pat Freiermuth as a tight end. You have those pieces. You're missing maybe an offensive lineman or two, but I think that this offensive line is not as bad as, for instance, the 2008 Pittsburgh Steelers that went to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, they're a lot better than that for sure.
A lot better than that. And so, as bad as we complain about them because of what the offensive line became under the Killer Bees era, I get that, but they're not as bad as they could be. So the Steelers have positioned themselves with rookies on the offensive side, and they have solidified the defensive stars and for long-term contracts like TJ and Minka. And so, right now they have the ability, because of those offensive players on rookie contracts, to go out there and really make a push in free agency. They were able to get rid of Chase Claypool and get a second-round pick for him that initially and effectively would have been a first round any other year at number 32 overall. And so they've really positioned themselves to make that push. We're going to see if the plan worked. This was the plan. I think this is the time. The time is now. What do you know? You got any final words for everybody?
Well, to everybody that tuned in, that put your thoughts, put your questions, we appreciate you guys. We always enjoy seeing you guys in the chat and putting your input and everything like that. You guys are also a part of the show. So thank you for taking the time out of your guys' day to tune into the show here today. You guys can follow me right here in Hindsight if you want to follow me on there. I do like a few different podcasts. Started a new one with my friend that really we talk about anything from sports to entertainment to whatever it is. But in Hindsight, it's my main channel, and that's where I talk about whether it's Steelers, whether it's Pirates, Pittsburgh stuff, if it's anything else in sports. If you guys are interested in that, tune into that. I do the Unofficial Steelers podcast with Daniel and Mark Davidson. He will be back down the line whenever he's has that time to come back. So we do that on all three of our channels. So if you guys want to keep up with that, follow mine as well, just as you do here with Daniel and Mark, because we do that together. But the rest of this week, we'll see what happens. Next week is really when things are going to get really picked up. Tempo's really going to get picked up and stuff like that. So, heck, will probably even be times where we even do impromptu shows where they're not even scheduled out or even scheduled ahead, just because you never know what's going to happen. So it's going to be fun, and it's going to be a fun offseason. Things will be better than the last year, and I think there's going to be – I think it's going to have a different feel, I think, this year, and I think it's going to get a lot of fans amped up.
For sure, man. I'm excited for it. This is going to be an awesome offseason. The quietness is finally going to come to an end for a little bit. We have free agency, we have the draft, we have OTAs, things like that. And then we have a little bit more of a slump before training camp, and it kicks back in. But this is the high point. We're about to get into the high point of the offseason.
Yes. So
hit that like button.
Yep.
Hit that subscribe button.
Yep. Hit the subscribe on this channel, guys.
Ring the bell. That way you're notified of all of our content. With that being said, y'all, we're the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. I'm Daniel. That's Nate. Good night.